At 3:14 in the morning, a 26-year-old radio technician sat alone in a trailer in the Nevada desert, headphones clamped over her ears, coffee gone cold beside her. Then she heard it. A sound that shouldn't exist. A rhythm older than any language on Earth, pulsing in from a patch of sky with no name on any star chart. She didn't know it yet, but this 30-second burst of static was about to rewrite everything humanity thought it knew about being alone in the universe. And somewhere out there, something that had been sleeping for 10,000 years had just opened its eyes. Her name was Maya Chen, and she worked the graveyard shift at a small radio observatory contracted by a university out of Reno. The place wasn't fancy. A cluster of dishes pointed at the sky, a couple of trailers, and a generator that groaned like an old man climbing stairs. Most nights were dead quiet. You logged background noise, checked calibration, and watched reruns on your phone to stay awake. Tonight was different. The signal hit the main dish at 3:14 am. Pacific time, and it didn't behave like anything Maya had logged before. No natural source produces a pattern that clean. Pulsars are steady but mechanical. Solar flares are messy, chaotic. This was neither. It had structure. It had intention. "Okay," she whispered to herself, sitting up straight. "Okay, that's not normal, buddy." She rewound the recording 3 times, hands shaking slightly on the mouse. Each playback gave her the same chills down her spine. It sounded almost like a heartbeat wrapped inside a burst of static, followed by a series of clicks that repeated in groups of 7. 7. Always 7. Maya wasn't an astrophysicist. She was a grad student pulling night shifts to pay rent. But even she knew enough to understand that nature doesn't count. Nature doesn't organize itself into neat little 7s on purpose. She grabbed her phone and called her supervisor, Dr. Elias Reyes, a soft-spoken but sharp radio astronomer who'd spent 15 years chasing signals that turned out to be nothing satellite interference, microwave leakage, the occasional prankster with a jammed transmitter. He picked up groggy. "Maya, it's the middle of the night. Dr. Reyes, I need you to look at this. Now, I'm not messing around." Something in her voice must have convinced him, because 20 minutes later his truck pulled up outside, headlights cutting through the desert dark like a warning. He looked at the readout. He looked again. His face went pale under the trailer's fluorescent light. "Maya," he said slowly, "how many times did this repeat?" 3 times. Then it stopped. He sat down hard in the folding chair beside her, staring at the screen like it had just spoken his name. "This isn't from any satellite we know," he said. "And it's not coming from anywhere close." Outside, the desert wind picked up, rattling the trailer door like something wanted in. By sunrise, Dr. Reyes had already made 3 calls, one to a colleague at Berkeley, one to a former professor at MIT, and one, reluctantly, to a contact he still had at a government research division he never liked talking about. Maya sat outside the trailer with a lukewarm energy drink, watching the sky turn orange, still replaying that clicking pattern in her head. "You look like you saw a ghost," said Tomas, the observatory's maintenance guy, walking past with a toolbox. "Worse," Maya said. "I think I heard one." Within 48 hours, 3 more dishes across the country picked up fragments of the same transmission, one in Puerto Rico, one in West Virginia, and one from a private array in Texas that nobody even knew was still operational. The signal wasn't random noise bouncing around. It was being received in sequence, like something was sweeping across the planet on purpose. That got attention fast. By the end of the week, Maya and Dr. Reyes were no longer working out of a dusty trailer. They'd been quietly moved to a research facility outside Flagstaff, Arizona, alongside a small team of cryptographers, linguists, and a no-nonsense Air Force liaison named Colonel Denise Acaffer, who made it very clear this was now above their pay grade, and also very clear she needed their brains anyway. "You people found it," Acaffer said during the first briefing, arms crossed. "So you people are going to help me understand it. No leaks, no interviews, no posting cryptic tweets about aliens. Are we clear?" "Crystal," Maya muttered, though privately she thought the "no aliens" comment was a little premature. Nobody had said the word alien, yet not officially. Everyone was too scared to. The cryptography team worked around the clock. The clicks in groups of 7, it turned out, weren't random symbols. They were math. Prime numbers first, then geometric ratios, then something that looked disturbingly like a star map, except half the stars on it didn't match anything in current catalogs. Either these are new stars, said Dr. Priya Nair, the team's lead linguist/mathematician, or they're old ones. Really old. Like thousands of years old, positions shifted kind of old. Maya felt a chill crawl up her arms. So this signal is ancient? The signal itself, probably not, Priya said, tapping her pen against the star chart. But whatever recorded this map originally, that could be older than agriculture. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Somewhere down the hall, a printer kept spitting out pages of decoded numbers, filling the silence with a steady, mechanical hum. The only sound in a room full of people who suddenly weren't sure they wanted answers anymore. 2 weeks into the investigation, the team hit something that made even Colonel Awakens lose her composure for the first time. Embedded deep inside the signal's third repetition was a waveform that, once cleaned up and slowed down by a factor of 40, sounded like a voice. Not words exactly, no language on Earth matched it, but a tone, rising and falling with something that felt disturbingly like emotion. Fear, maybe, or a warning. Play it again, Dr. Reyes said quietly. Priya hit play. The room listened to the eerie, warbling tone loop through twice, then fall into dead silence. That's not gibberish, said Marcus Webb, a junior analyst who'd been mostly quiet until now. That's structured stress patterning, like something built to communicate urgency across any species that might be listening, regardless of language. You're telling me, Maya said slowly, that whoever made this wanted anyone, anywhere, to understand this was bad news. Marcus nodded. Universal alarm signal. Like a fire alarm works the same whether you speak English or Mandarin. You don't need words to know something's wrong. Awakens stood by the window, arms crossed, staring out at the Arizona hills like they might have answers of their own. So we've got a 10,000-year-old fire alarm, she said. Great, just great. The next breakthrough came from the star map. Once Priya's team cross-referenced the shifted star positions against known stellar drift calculations, they got a number that silenced the whole room. 11,400 years. That's roughly how long ago this signal would have needed to be recorded for the stars to appear where the map showed them. That's older than the pyramids, Marcus whispered. Older than written history. And yet, Dr. Reyes said, rubbing his temples, it's still traveling. It's still out here. Which means somebody or something built a transmitter that's been broadcasting, on a loop, for over 11,000 years. Maya felt her stomach twist. Or it just started broadcasting recently, like it got triggered. The room went quiet again. That theory was worse, and everybody in that room knew it. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat on the balcony of the guest quarters they'd given her, staring up at the same patch of sky the signal had come from, wondering what kind of catastrophe was bad enough that a civilization would spend its final days broadcasting a warning to strangers it would never meet, instead of trying to save itself. Whatever happened to them, she thought, they wanted somebody else to know. That wasn't the behavior of monsters. That was the behavior of people running out of time. The full decode took 3 more weeks, a small army of specialists, and, according to Marcus, roughly 900 cups of terrible breakroom coffee. But by the end of it, they had something close to a complete translation, cross-checked by 4 independent teams working in isolation to avoid bias. What they found didn't just change the mission. It changed everything. The signal wasn't a greeting. It wasn't first contact in the way every science fiction movie had trained humanity to expect. It was a warning beacon, automated, left behind by a civilization that no longer existed to explain itself in person. According to the decoded data, this civilization, the team started calling them, the senders for lack of anything better, had encountered something out among the stars. Not a monster, not a god. A natural cosmic hazard. A rogue gravitational anomaly. Something like a compact dead star or dense stellar remnant, moving through a region of space in an unpredictable, looping orbit that periodically swept close enough to nearby systems to devastate them. The senders hadn't been destroyed by an enemy. They'd been destroyed by physics, by something ancient and impersonal, wandering the galaxy on a slow, silent, 1,000-year cycle no one could have seen coming until it was already too late. And their final act, as their world came apart, was to build transmitters designed to survive them by centuries, aimed outward into the galaxy, broadcasting a warning and a map to any species smart enough to eventually catch it. They didn't want revenge, Priya said, voice tight with emotion she was clearly trying to hold back. They didn't even want to be remembered. They just didn't want this to happen to anybody else. Colonel Awakens, for the first time since the investigation started, looked less like a soldier and more like a person. That's actually kind of beautiful, she admitted quietly. But there was a second part to the message. Buried in the final sequence was a coordinate, not a star system light years away, but something disturbingly close. Somewhere within the edge of our own solar system. Dr. Reyes ran the numbers twice before he spoke. There's something out past Neptune, he said. Something small, metallic, matching an artificial signature, and based on this data. It's not just sitting there. What do you mean, not just sitting there? Maya asked. He turned the monitor around so everyone could see the tracking readout. I mean it just changed course, he said. Toward us. Word doesn't stay contained in a government facility for long, no matter how many non-disclosure agreements get signed. Within days, fragments of the story leaked, first as a rumor on an obscure astronomy forum, then as a blurry screenshot on social media, then as a full-blown headline on cable news. Mysterious object changes course near solar system's edge, scientists silent. The public reaction was exactly what you'd expect. Half the internet panicked. The other half made memes. Grocery stores in 3 states reported runs on bottled water and canned beans within 48 hours, which Maya found equal parts terrifying and darkly hilarious. People are buying propane tanks, Marcus said, scrolling his phone in the break room. For what? To fight off a metal object with a barbecue? Humans gonna human, Maya said, shaking her head. We panic buy snacks for hurricanes. Why would aliens be any different? But behind closed doors, nobody at the facility was laughing. The object, designated object came in as 7 by the tracking team, was small, roughly the size of a school bus, and moving at a velocity that made 0 sense for anything drifting naturally. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't producing any life sign readings, no thermal bloom, nothing that suggested a crew. It's a machine, Dr. Reyes said during an emergency briefing with representatives from 3 different government agencies crammed into one overheated conference room. Not a vessel. Based on the signal data, we believe this is some kind of automated relay, possibly part of the same warning system. It may have been dormant for thousands of years until our signal reception triggered some kind of activation sequence. So we woke it up, said a stern-looking man from a 3-letter agency Maya still couldn't quite place. In a manner of speaking, Reyes said, it's not hostile. Nothing in the data suggests hostility. If anything, it may be here to deliver additional information, maybe defense schematics, maybe deeper star charts, maybe something we haven't even considered yet. Or it could be a trap, the agency man said flatly. Colonel Awakens leaned forward. With respect, sir, an 11,000-year-old warning system that helped nobody so far isn't exactly evil genius material. If the senders wanted to trick somebody, they picked a pretty slow, pretty complicated way to do it. The room went quiet, weighing that. Maya, sitting near the back, felt something settle inside her that surprised her, not fear exactly, but resolve. Whatever this thing was, it had traveled farther and lasted longer than anything human hands had ever built. And now it was heading toward Earth, carrying the last message of a people who no longer existed. Somebody needed to go meet it. And deep down, Maya already knew she wanted to be part of that somebody. The decision to send a mission wasn't made lightly, and it definitely wasn't made fast. 6 agencies, 4 countries, and 1 very tense international summit later, a joint task force was finally greenlit, Operation Lighthouse. Its job was simple to say and terrifying to actually do. Intercept object came in as 7 before it reached Earth's orbit, and figure out, once and for all, what exactly humanity had woken up. NASA led the technical side, but Maya, to her own shock, got pulled onto the science advisory team. Dr. Reyes fought hard for her seat at the table. She found it first, he told the selection committee. She's earned the right to help finish it. Training moved fast, faster than anything Maya had ever experienced. 6 weeks of crash course astrophysics briefings, zero-G simulations, emergency protocols, and enough paperwork to kill a small forest. She barely slept. She lived on protein bars and bad coffee, same as everyone else on the team, and honestly, she wouldn't have traded it for anything. The crew that eventually launched aboard the modified spacecraft Horizon-1 was small but sharp. Commander Alicia Ruiz, a veteran astronaut with 2 prior missions under her belt and a laugh that could calm a room mid-crisis. Flight engineer Devon Marsh, dry-humored and endlessly competent. Dr. Reyes representing the science team in person. And Maya, the 26-year-old night shift technician who 3 months earlier had been drinking cold gas station coffee in a desert trailer. Feels like a fever dream, Maya admitted to Ruiz the night before launch, both of them staring out a window at the launch pad lights. Get used to that feeling, Ruiz said. Space has a way of making everything feel like a fever dream. Best advice I ever got. Stay sharp, trust your training, and don't forget to actually look out the window once in a while. Most people never get the view you're about to get. Launch day arrived with clear skies and a crowd bigger than anyone anticipated, millions watching worldwide, holding their breath collectively as Horizon-1 thundered off the pad and cut a bright line through the atmosphere. Inside the capsule, Maya gripped her harness, heart hammering, watching Earth shrink beneath her through the tiny window. She thought about the senders, a civilization that vanished before humans ever built the wheel, who spent their final days thinking not of themselves, but of strangers they'd never meet. We're coming, she thought, gripping the harness tighter as the G-forces pushed her back into her seat. We hear you, and we're not running from this. Somewhere out past Neptune, Object K-7 continued its slow, silent approach, waiting, patient, for the ones who had finally learned to listen. 6 days into the mission, Horizon-1 reached rendezvous distance with Object K-7, and every screen on the ship lit up with data nobody had fully prepared for. Up close, the object was even stranger than the sensors suggested. Its surface wasn't smooth metal like the team expected. It was covered in fine, almost organic-looking ridges, like the skin of something that had been alive once or built to imitate life. No seams, no visible propulsion system, nothing that resembled human engineering logic at all. It's not moving under thrust, Devon said, scanning the readouts. No exhaust signature, no drive plume, it's like it's just deciding where to go. Gravity manipulation, maybe, Dr. Reyes murmured, half to himself, or something we don't have a category for yet. Commander Ruiz kept the ship steady at a cautious 200-meter distance. Options, people, we can't just knock on the door. That's when Maya noticed something on her console, a familiar pattern buried inside the object's faint electromagnetic emissions. Clicks, grouped in 7s. It's talking, she said, sitting up sharply. The same pattern from the original signal, it's repeating it. Is it a threat display? Ruiz asked. No, Maya said, feeling that same chill she'd felt back in the trailer months ago. I think it's saying hello the only way it knows how. Reyes ran a rapid cross-analysis, feeding the pattern into their onboard decoder. After a tense few minutes, a rough translation scrolled across the screen, fragmented but unmistakable. Received, VERIFID listener, transmitting full archive. The ship systems lit up as a massive stream of data began pouring in star maps stretching far beyond anything humanity had charted. Hazard zones marked across a swath of the galaxy, and something else. Detailed technical schematics, gravitational shielding concepts, propulsion theories centuries beyond current human capability. They didn't just want to warn us, Reyes said, voice shaking slightly. They wanted to arm us. Give us a fighting chance if we ever crossed paths with that same hazard. Maya felt tears prick her eyes, unexpected and overwhelming. They built something that lasted 11,000 years just to make sure a species they'd never meet had a better shot at survival than they did. Ruiz was quiet for a long moment, staring at the object floating silently outside the window. That's not a weapon, she finally said. That's a gift. Devon exhaled shakily. Best delivery service ever. Even in the tension of the moment, a small, relieved laugh rippled through the cabin, the kind of laugh that happens when fear finally lets go, even just a little. Outside, Object K-7 drifted closer. Its ancient message nearly complete, patiently waiting to finish what its long-dead builders had started so many thousands of years ago. The data transfer took 11 hours, and nobody on Horizon-1 slept through a single minute of it. Every terabyte that streamed in rewired what humanity understood about physics, propulsion, and survival on a cosmic scale. Decades, maybe centuries, of scientific progress compressed into a single overnight download. But halfway through, something changed. The object's steady pulse pattern shifted, becoming faster, more erratic. Devon's console lit up with warnings. "Something's wrong," he said. "Power signature inside K-7 just spiked. It's not aimed at us, but it's degrading fast." Reyes leaned in, eyes scanning the readout. "It's dying. This thing has been running on borrowed time for 11,000 years, and finishing this transmission might have been its last job." Maya felt her chest tighten. "It's not attacking us. It's just finishing the mission before it shuts down for good." "Can we save it?" Ruiz asked. "Study it intact?" "No time," Reyes said. "And honestly, Commander, I don't think that's what it wants." On the screen, one final burst of the 7 pattern clicks played out, slower this time, almost gentle. Then, silence. Object K-7's power signature flatlined completely. Whatever intelligence, however primitive or advanced, had guided that machine across thousands of years and untold distance had finally gone still. Nobody spoke for a long moment. It felt, oddly, like watching someone complete their life's purpose and finally get to rest. "Rest in peace, little guy," Devon murmured, breaking the silence. "You did good." Maya wiped her eyes, embarrassed but not really caring. "It waited 11,000 years for anybody, to actually listen, and we did." Ruiz nodded slowly, staring at the now inert object drifting silently in the dark. "Let's bring it home," she said. "Gently, it's earned that much." Back on Earth, news of the successful contact, respectful, careful, and framed exactly as what it was, a message of survival rather than an invasion, spread fast. The panic buying stopped almost overnight. Late-night talk shows swapped doomsday jokes for genuine, wide-eyed wonder. Scientists across the globe scrambled to begin studying the archive of knowledge now sitting in human hands. For the first time in recorded history, humanity wasn't just looking up at the stars wondering if anyone was out there. They had proof. And more importantly, they had a warning that might one day save them the same way it had failed to save the ones who sent it. Horizon-1 turned back toward home, carrying its silent passenger and a legacy far bigger than any of them had expected when the mission started. 6 months later, the world looked different, not overnight movie different, no flying cars or alien embassies, but different in the way that mattered. Universities worldwide had entire new departments dedicated to studying the sender archive. International space agencies that used to compete now shared data daily, united by something bigger than politics for the first time in generations. Maya stood at a podium in front of the United Nations General Assembly, hands steady despite the hundreds of eyes watching her. Presidents, prime ministers, scientists, reporters from every corner of the planet. 11,000 years ago, she began, a civilization we'll never get to meet made a choice. Facing the end of everything they knew, they didn't spend their final days in despair. They spent it building something to protect strangers they'd never see, speak to, or even imagine clearly. They gave us a warning. They gave us knowledge, and they did it without ever asking for anything back. She paused, glancing at Dr. Reyes and the rest of the Horizon-1 crew seated in the front row. "That's not just a story about aliens," she continued. "That's a story about what it means to care about people you'll never know. And now, it's our turn to decide what kind of species we want to be remembered as, the kind that panics and hides, or the kind that listens, learns, and prepares." The applause that followed wasn't just polite diplomatic clapping. It rolled through the chamber like something real, something earned. Behind the scenes, the shielding schematics from the archive were already being tested in early prototype form, years ahead of anything human engineers could have developed alone. Deep space monitoring networks expanded tenfold, now watching not just for danger, but for any future signal that might carry the same 7-pattern signature. In case, someday, humanity needed to answer for someone else, the same way the senders had answered for them. Colonel Ackafer, promoted and reassigned to head the newly formed Global Deep Space Defense Initiative, put it best during a private debrief months later. "We didn't get invaded," she said, sipping coffee that had, for once, actually been decent. "We got adopted into something bigger than ourselves. Whether we deserved it or not, somebody out there believed we were worth warning." Maya smiled at that, thinking back to that cold desert night in the trailer, headphones clamped over her ears, heart hammering at 3:14 in the morning. "We were listening," she said quietly. "That's all it ever takes. Somebody's just gotta be listening." Outside, the night sky stretched on, full of stars that no longer felt distant or silent, just patient, waiting for humanity to keep proving it deserved the gift it had been given. 1 year to the day after Maya first heard that impossible signal crackle through her headphones, she stood back in that same stretch of Nevada desert. Except now, the little trailer had been replaced by a proper research campus, funded jointly by 3 governments and half a dozen universities that used to barely speak to each other. They'd named it the Sender Memorial Array, a small gesture, but one that mattered. A quiet nod to a civilization that never got a chance to see how far their final act of kindness had traveled. Maya walked the grounds with Dr. Reyes at sunset, watching new dishes rise against the orange sky, aimed permanently toward the patch of stars where it all began. "You ever think about them?" Maya asked. "The senders, I mean, what they were like, what they looked like, what they were even afraid of at the end." Reyes considered that for a long moment. "All the time," he admitted, "but honestly, I don't think it matters what they looked like. What matters is what they did. They had every reason to give up, and instead, they spent their last days thinking about somebody else's future instead of their own ending." Maya nodded slowly, the desert wind tugging at her jacket, same as it had that very first night. "We're gonna be ready," she said. "Whatever's still out there, whatever comes next, we're gonna be ready because they made sure we had the chance to be." Inside the new facility, banks of monitors hummed quietly, scanning the sky 24 hours a day now, always listening, always alert, carrying forward a job that started 11,000 years ago and would likely continue long after everyone alive today was gone. Object K-7 sat preserved in a climate-controlled research bay nearby, dark and silent, but treated with a strange kind of reverence, less like a piece of alien tech and more like a monument. A reminder. Proof that even in the face of total annihilation, some final act of humanity, or whatever the senders would have called their own version of humanity, chose compassion over despair. As the last light faded over the desert horizon, Maya looked up at the first stars beginning to appear, feeling something settle deep in her chest. Not fear, not even wonder exactly, but purpose. Humanity hadn't been invaded. It hadn't been saved by some outside miracle, either. It had simply been trusted to listen, trusted to learn, and trusted to carry a warning forward instead of letting it die in silence a second time. And for the first time in her life, staring up at that impossibly vast, impossibly quiet sky, Maya Chen didn't feel small. She felt ready.